Let's jump right in. Today we're unpacking some seriously intense material from our source. We're talking about the primal, hidden mechanics of attraction. And look, we're not going over sweet, romantic dating tips here. Instead, we're decoding the dark psychology of obsession. We're going to expose exactly how certain calculated behaviors completely bypass a person's logical brain, creating a deep, almost chemical dependency. It's absolutely fascinating, very clinical, and honestly, a little bit terrifying.
Because, think about it, there's a huge, fundamental difference between someone simply liking you and someone being obsessed with you. If someone likes you, they send a text, maybe smile at a photo, standard stuff. But obsession? No. That's waking up with their name literally echoing in your head. It's staring at a blank screen for hours waiting for just a single notification like it's your actual oxygen supply. In this explainer, we're exploring the precise mechanics that engineer that terrifying reality.
So here's our roadmap for the anatomy of obsession. We've got 6 sections: liking versus obsession, the emotional roller coaster, creating complete dependence, the unfinished puzzle, weaponizing vulnerability, and finally, the ultimate consequence. By systematically breaking down these tools, you'll be able to step right out of the passenger seat and take total control of your own emotional boundaries. Let's get to it.
Starting with Section 1, liking versus obsession, the baseline of dark psychology.
We all love to think of ourselves as purely logical creatures, right? But the reality is, we're almost entirely driven by emotion. The harsh truth is, whoever controls the emotion controls the person. If you just ignore how these psychological rules work, you inevitably become vulnerable prey out there. You're basically handing over the remote control of your mind. But, and here's the crucial part, by understanding these exact mechanics, you grab that steering wheel back. You get to dictate your own emotional journey.
Okay, moving right along to Section 2, the emotional roller coaster, engineering those extreme highs and lows.
So how do manipulators actually manufacture these feelings? Well, there's a clinical term for it: intermittent reinforcement. See, if a relationship is 100% predictable, it rarely turns into obsession. But when joy and pain are delivered irregularly, the human brain literally short-circuits. It starts craving those rare positive moments the same way a person in the desert craves a drop of water. This wildly irregular cycle triggers massive spikes of dopamine, your pleasure hormone, and cortisol, the stress hormone. And when those mix, they forge what psychologists call a trauma bond. It makes breaking up as excruciatingly hard as quitting a physical addiction like nicotine.
And here's exactly how they execute this, step by step. First, you get the incredible highs. We're talking grand romance, gifts, making the victim feel like the absolute star of a movie. But then, boom, out of nowhere, the lows hit. The manipulator creates this inexplicable distance. They take hours to reply. They start using the word space, which, let's be real, is basically dropping a nuclear bomb on someone's anxiety. Finally, step 3, they inject a subtle dose of jealousy. Maybe they casually mention getting coffee with an old friend. This whole hot and cold routine, it totally transforms the manipulator into the absolute sole dealer of the victim's peace of mind.
Which brings us seamlessly into Section 3, creating complete dependence, where they become the only solution.
Now, underneath it all, almost everyone harbors a bit of a damsel in distress or lost boy complex. It's this deeply hidden, mostly unconscious desire for a savior. A hero to just sweep in and rescue us from our deepest insecurities and all our worldly troubles. A manipulative partner can practically smell this vulnerability and they exploit it. They position themselves perfectly as that false messiah.
So how do they pull that off? Basically, they act as the ultimate Google search result for every single problem the victim has. It's like they're a mentalist. Step 1, they actively listen to pinpoint the victim's deepest insecurity. Maybe it's their career, their looks, family issues, whatever. Then, step 2, they apply the balm. They shower the victim with intense, laser-targeted praise exactly where they feel the weakest. And finally, step 3, they build a really powerful us versus the world dynamic. They isolate the victim emotionally, convincing them that absolutely no one else understands them. Before long, the victim feels completely mentally crippled without their so-called savior.
Let's shift gears to Section 4, the unfinished puzzle, and the incredible power of mystery.
This whole concept relies heavily on something called the Zeigarnik effect. This is a psychological principle that states our brains absolutely despise incomplete tasks or unfinished stories. I mean, if a puzzle is missing pieces, our brain will obsess over it until it's done, right? Well, by purposely leaving things unsaid, a manipulator creates an open loop in the victim's mind. The victim's subconscious is practically forced to constantly loop back and think about the manipulator. And the more you think about someone, the more deeply attached you become. It's a total mental trap.
To execute this, the manipulator makes sure they never reveal everything about themselves. They leave a trail of these mental open loops. They might hint at some dark, mysterious past, but then intentionally stop halfway through the story. Or they'll suddenly reveal a really unusual hidden talent, like reading ancient languages or identifying constellations, something that totally clashes with their everyday persona. By acting unpredictably, they shatter expectations. They basically turn themselves into a complex, captivating Christopher Nolan film. The victim is left desperate to see the next scene, just to try and make sense of it all.
This leads us straight to Section 5, and perhaps the most insidious tactic of all, weaponizing vulnerability.
We need to look at how this dangerous illusion of trust is built. As humans, we have this hardwired instinct called the reciprocity of vulnerability. Think about it. When someone sits down, looks you dead in the eye, and shares a painful secret or a perceived weakness, it triggers a massive empathetic response in your brain. Your natural gut instinct is to lower your own defenses and share something equally vulnerable right back, just to balance the scales.
And manipulators weaponize this beautifully. First, they share a perfectly controlled or honestly sometimes completely fabricated secret. They'll use that masterstroke phrase, I haven't told anyone else this, but by faking that weakness, they instantly trigger the victim's natural empathy. The victim feels incredibly trusted, incredibly special, and then opens up, handing over their true, deepest, most painful insecurities. Just like that, the manipulator has the ultimate leverage and insight they need for complete emotional control.
Section 6. We've looked objectively at these dark mechanics, but now we have to confront the final reality, the ultimate consequence.
The source material takes a very hard, sobering pivot right at the end here. It explicitly warns that utilizing these dark psychology tactics is absolutely a double-edged sword. Because when you treat a relationship like a dark game of chess, the trap ultimately closes on both players. The perpetrator, they just become a prisoner of their very own game.
The fates for both people involved are just uniquely grim. For the victim, the result is completely devastating. They're trapped in a mental prison. Their self-esteem is totally eroded, and they are literally addicted to a mirage. But look at the manipulator's fate. They lose their capacity for any kind of true peace, because deep down they know the obsessed person doesn't actually love them. The victim loves the engineered illusion. The manipulator is standing on a foundation of lies, slowly losing their true self and completely disqualifying themselves from ever experiencing genuine, authentic love.
The ultimate takeaway of this explainer is a critical warning. Knowledge is a shield, not a sword. This deep dive into dark psychology isn't a manual for manipulation, it is a defense mechanism. You have to use this knowledge to spot these red flags out in the wild and defend yourself. Because true power doesn't come from holding someone in a psychological cage. True power is building genuine trust, acting with integrity, and recognizing that real love always offers freedom.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a challenge. I want you to really reflect on your own experiences. Have you ever felt the magnetic pull of those open loops or the sting of intermittent reinforcement? Look closely at the relationships around you. Where exactly do you draw that fine line between true, healthy love and a manufactured psychological disease? Think about it, and stay safe out there.